Hello BookTube, hope you're all well and welcome back to my channel. I have a book haul for you today and also some vinyl as well. I've seen so many book hauls recently. Steve Donahue's daily amazing, as long as it's not stemming of course, but daily amazing little trips, and Mark Richardson up in Vermont, just going on these crazy secondhand book hauls, getting some really amazing books for like 50 cents. It's crazy. I definitely miss those days. And obviously Peg over there in Colorado, just blowing everyone out of the water with her hour-long book hauls. Yeah, even Bill Rittenberg's getting in on the action there. And then there's the troublemakers. There's Noah at Everyone's Muscoverse, just showing off those vinyl, just dragging me in there. So anyway, I'll get on with the books and then some vinyls, which I'm very excited about. And the crazy thing is, I'm supposed to be cutting down on my book expenditure this year, partly because I wanted to buy more records. It's mainly due to the very charitable and friendly reason that my friends actually run a record store, so I'm trying to support them more. But it's actually purely selfish. I love records. But the other thing is I have a house, and I have a ton of work to be doing on the house, and I really should be putting some money into that rather than spending money on books that I really want but do I need? Probably don't need. I need them. Anyway, I'll get on with the books. So I actually I foolishly signed back up for eBay. I had a UK account. I never started one in Canada. I just started a Canadian account, and I thought it was be restrained and only look for stuff that's in Canada, and then I found whole libraries up for grabs of old vintage paperbacks, 1950s to 1970s, kind of just my absolute jam. But the first one is it's a bit of a curiosity, it's a bit of a contemporary curiosity kind of thing. It's a bit of a call to arms. It's Lillian Smith, Now Is the Time. Lillian Smith was a white Southern woman who was a civil rights activist and democracy advocate. And this is in response to the Brown vs. Board of Education Supreme Court ruling. It's basically a call to arms saying the decision has been made, but now is the time when we have to implement. We have to fight to implement it. There's going to be resistance. There's going to be some pushback. There's going to be some minor pushback, and there's going to be some violent pushback. Now is the time for us to all step up and implement this for children, for the greatest good of America, for the greatest good of democracy. Because one of her arguments, definitely in the introduction, is how can we say democracy is great when we're denying it, when we're denying basic civil rights such as voting and education to a substantial part of the population. That's a good argument. So yeah, I think this really goes into, I think she said this goes into, kind of just goes into the history of segregation a little bit too. Where was it? I think it said, she's going to talk about, yeah, it's going to talk about a little bit about the history of how America got to like a segregated education system. Yeah, and it's dedicated to children everywhere. So yeah, that's really, I'm super into these little like contemporary social issues. I definitely like to have sources from the like at the time, as well as like reading history books about it now. I think it's really good to see what some people were thinking about, and kind of it gives you more of a kind of contextualization, like of what was going on there, because it's easy enough for someone to come in 20, 30, 50 years down the line and kind of bring everything together, but having specific views, I know it gives you, I prefer it gives you a bit more colour and understanding rather than just kind of someone telling you, oh, this is what all these people thought and sort of thing. Like just to hear it from the horse's mouth per se. And then some of those paperbacks, crime paperbacks. This is The Deadly Payoff by William H. What's that? Duhart. I do not know William H. Duhart. I don't know if Matt a Paperback Junkie or Mar Richardson or Jack a Rambling Raconteur. I don't know if you guys know this author at all. I basically bought it the same way I buy it pretty much all of my crime paperbacks. If the cover art looks good and the title sounds good, I'll buy it. If I haven't heard it before, I'll buy it. I don't care. I've read so much formulaic hack writing crime novels, and to be honest, most of them have been very enjoyable. But I could read the most formulaic, hack, boring, worst written crime novel ever written, and I'll probably still get some sense of enjoyment. Heck, I kind of even like Dan Brown. Not that I would never read another one, but I read Da Vinci Code, and you know, I kind of understood why people liked it. It wasn't great, but you know, if you don't read any thrillers, I kind of get it. But yeah, I don't know this guy. I read a lot of like 50s American paperbacks. I'm thinking this is 1958 as well. It's a gold medal. Yeah, what's a gold medal? But yeah, never heard of that guy. Next up is a classic, like a modern British classic that I have read, but I had a different copy, and that would have gone in the Great Purge of 2013 when I left Scotland. Basically just got rid of all my books. But this is Saturday Night, Sunday Morning by Alan Sillitoe, and this is the copy that I want, the great Pan, the amazing Pan cover. That is, it looks great on there, but it is also a movie tie-in, because it hasn't still been the movie there, but there is a novel, I believe, which is, it has the TV on the front too, but this is the Pan copy that I wanted. Yeah, and I've read a few of the kitchen sink novels from the 50s, 60s. I actually have another one upstairs called The L-Shaped Room, which I really need to get to. Yeah, this is 1958 as well. This is 10th printing, 1962. But yeah, I've read this. Really enjoyed it. I have another Alan Sillitoe upstairs I haven't read called The General. I need to get around to that too. But yeah, I'll probably reread this, and that'll probably inspire me to read The L-Shaped Room. And I do really like. I never read too much British fiction novels, but I did really like reading around kind of 1950s. Like I kind of like reading around 1950s, early 60s. Kind of the really kitchen sink dramas, which was more focusing on working class people, or the kind of more rebellious, kind of starts against the kind of really coming out against the conservativeness of British culture. Those kind of novels, and also kind of a lot of pre and post war kind of Soviet novels, kind of socialism novels. But yeah, definitely this is kind of my wheelhouse when it comes to British novels. Another crime thriller. This one is The Whole Sky Burn by Charles Victor. I don't think I know Charles Victor either. I don't think I know any of these names. And this is a World War II crime novel, which is it seemed interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's the guy out west just had a ton of these, free shipping. A lot of them were between $10 and $20, which is like it's really hard to find a lot of these titles, especially in Canada. Yeah, so I think I'm probably gonna get some more, from them, which is not so great. This was 1968. Not so great. Is this a World War II or is it? It just says GI, so I don't know which war it is. But it's 68. It's gonna be really, if it's not set in Vietnam, it's certainly gonna probably have allusions to Vietnam. Yeah, this is the first. It's the first publication of it in any form, so it seems that it's probably contemporary. Yeah, so I don't know. Let me know if you know Charles Victor at all, if he's any good. I did start reading William Duhart, and it was weird to start with. I was kind of getting into a little bit. The writing style is kind of was a little bit interesting for me. A little bit different to what I kind of some of the stuff I normally read, but I was kind of into it. And the last one of this crop is The Assassinator by David Vole. I think this is like a 70s tough cop on LA beat where there's always a little smog, a lot of murder in the air. So yeah, this looks like it's introducing one hard-nosed cop in the most relentless manhunt since the French Connection. So this seems like it's a little bit like of possibly right-wing wish fulfillment, but it's kind of a tough cop maybe taking the extension of the law maybe a little bit. And this is 1975. I bought this one because the cover is just so good. I mean, it looks like this head is just floating over the body. It's so good. I love covers like that. It's so good. Yeah, even though I have very leftist views, very left, very quite pacifist in some way. I do really love right-wing wish fulfillment novels for some reason. I really love and movies too. I've watched so many really bad anti-communist B movies from like the 50s and 60s. It's kind of they're just fun. I don't know. It's just fun. It's also just funny just to see how kind of people think as well. I don't know. I don't really get. I mean, I do get offended, but I don't get like I don't like get in a rage. I'm not trying to be like, oh, this just should be struck from the whole world. I don't know. I just I like to read, and then I like to make my own decisions, and then I like to tell people what I think. That's basically it. But yeah, no. There is something of just about some of these vigilante anti-communist books as well. They're kind of bizarre and hysterical. I know. I like reading them. I don't know. Next up is I think it's part of the HarperCollins detective series, and this is just a really good example of how good HarperCollins are as a reprint, and how good they are just recognizing the history of detective novels, crime novels. This is The Countryman Dies by Rudolph Fisher, and this is a basically Harlem Renaissance novel, but it's a crime novel, and so it's considered to be the first crime novel with African American characters. I think it's set in Harlem. Yeah, it's set in Harlem, and It's a black police detective. Yeah, this is The Countryman Dies was the very first detective novel written by an African American. A distinguished doctor and accomplished musician and dramatist, Rudolph Fisher was one of the principal writers of the Harlem Renaissance, but died in 1934, aged only 37. With a gripping plot and vividly drawn characters, Fisher's witty novel is a remarkable time capsule of one of the most exciting eras in the history of black fiction. So yeah, I think Rudolph Fisher is kind of lost. I've never really heard of him when people talk about the Harlem Renaissance, and I think because he died in 1934 and he was only 37, probably only wrote a handful of novels, then I don't think he's as celebrated and as talked about as say like Langston Hughes and Claude McKay, and even Nell Larson, and the other ones I can't remember right now. I keep meaning to buy all those Penguin Classic Harlem Renaissance reprints. But yeah, very excited about this one. I'm so happy that HarperCollins reissued this, reprinted this. It's very good. And so the next few books I didn't mean to buy. I can't remember if I was looking for something specifically, but I was definitely watching Brianna's channel over at Brianna's Library, and whenever I watch their videos, I always go into the Verso website, mainly because Verso is pretty much really the only one that's it's easy to get to the books. Although I actually did find a Canadian anarchist, or at least kind of more progressive kind of publisher that I'm probably going to get some books from because they're a little bit easier to source. But Verso, they I think Penguin does the shipping, does the distribution in Canada, so they just ship straight out of Mississauga. So you didn't need to spend $25 for free shipping. Whereas a lot of the publishers that Brianna buys from are generally ship out of America or further afield, and the shipping is crazy. And I am on a budget, so anyway, so I found myself on the Verso website, and they were having a sale. That's terrible. So a lot of these books were, I think the worst was 20% and the best was 60% off. So I bought myself a ton of left-wing books that I was looking for. There is a little bit of a thematic, just rearrange them slightly. Yeah, I guess I'll go for like that, slightly thematic. First one seemed really interesting. I think this was pretty cheap, and it's news for all the people. The epic story of race and the American media, and this basically goes into how how kind of non-white press has kind of always been targeted, tried to be suppressed, and even when white mainstream media has tackled non-white issues, non-white subjects, it's kind of fumbled and not been great at it. So yeah, I think it's going to look more into the historical context rather than necessarily modern day, but it might delve slightly into modern day. But there's definitely some pictures. It will also go into a lot of the heroes of small press in America, covering a lot of these, and just a lot of people. Just a lot of people who have probably been forgotten but were very important at the time. So it's got Domingo Nick Reyes, who was influential in Puerto Rican. Oh, Chicano, sorry. He was a radio DJ, television producer, was a Chicano activist. It's got this chappie Seymour Parker is very important in desegregating desegregating broadcasting in Jackson, Mississippi. I think it goes to the LA riots, the Zuzu riots, which I'm very interested in. It's got some great pictures. Jackie Cooper from Chicago, I think this possibly is slightly more. I think the people might be from Chicago, so it might be a little Chicago. Have a few Chicago things in it, but it does also have. It's from all around. Like there's Nebraska or there's New Mexico. Yeah, but it's very interesting. It's got some great photos, and it just seems really, really interesting there. And I'm a massive news junkie, and I love great journalism. I'm very much a supporter of local media, small presses, even like fanzines, just people creating content and information from their bedrooms. There's little presses that operated in like World War II for resistance pamphlets that had to do it really on the sly, like in Germany and then Vichy France and something. But I was hugely into what I know about those. Very, very important very important to get information out, and to get accurate information, and to get information that to support your cause, especially in the face of tyranny and autocracy. Very, very important. This one's very off now. I think when was it published? Quite a couple of years ago. I think 2018. Sorry, it's pretty much current actually. This is Piero Gagliano Dugbovi's Reclaiming the Black Past, and this is basically a historian who specializes in Black history, kind of just talking about the uses and misuses of Black history and the use and misuse of African American history in the 21st century. So I think it's basically looking at how especially in the 21st century, Black history, Black culture has become so commodifiable that so many people are influenced, and their knowledge of Black history comes from non-historians. So comes from people advocating for social issues, people who are advertising, people who are filmmakers, lots of different people who their primary job is not historian, and he is a historian. And I think it's just kind of a really kind of non-judgmental look at how accurate some of these portrayals are, and how misused they are. And I think it'll kind of just looking at it as a historian, as how useful this is to society. Yeah, I just read a little bit of the document, but it seems really interesting. It doesn't seem that judgmental. It's got some great blurbs. Basically, the best one is Robin D.G. Kelly. If Robin D.G. Kelly is blurb of a book, buy it. If Robin D.G. Kelly is the author of a book, buy it. He's a very, very good historian, and I don't think he's as well known as he should be, just because he's kind of mainly does Black history. He does a lot of kind of more leftist socialist Black history too. He's a really good book about I think it's like these socialist farm workers in Alabama or something in the 1920s. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I can't remember what it's called. It was called Hoes and Hammer or something. Yeah, it's basically about socialism in Alabama. It's very good. So kind of going along the themes of Black History Month and stuff, and definitely I think one of the goals that people, advocates for Black History Month, are saying is to kind of not take African American history as just like completely separate from other African diaspora history. So this is The Common Wind by Julius S. Scott, and it's the Afro-American currents in the age of the Haitian Revolution. So I think it's important to kind of connect the many narratives, the many struggles that are happening to Black people across the international authors, not just kind of take slavery as an American issue, especially as it's something ridiculous like only 5 to 10% of the slaves. I think this is probably before Britain. I think from the start to when Britain started to abolish it, then I think it was something like 5 to 10% reached British North America. Yeah, I think it was 10% reached British North America. And so there's a huge amount of slaves that went into the Caribbean, which is very important for the sugar plantations. It was very, very important for Britain's economy. I don't know if enough is merely made of the importance of the sugar plantations in the Caribbean for either the British colony at the time or just the continuation of the slavery. And it was a very big, very hard fought battle to abolish slavery in the first place in Britain. And the other, Brazil. I think Brazil was the Portuguese took a lot of slaves. I think they were the biggest exporters of slaves. And so yeah, I just don't think there's enough knowledge about the slave trade to Brazil and then by Portugal as well. But you know, there's never enough. There's never enough information. Like you can never really learn enough, like too much. I don't think you really ever have said, wow, I know too much about that subject. So always keep reading, always keep learning. That's my philosophy. And then the next two are very much in the Jewish radical tradition. The first one is very exciting. It's Revolutionary Yiddish Land, a history of Jewish radicalism. So, before the Holocaust, Yiddish land, the vast expanse of Eastern Europe, ran from the Baltic Sea to the western edge of Russia and incorporated hundreds of Jewish communities with a total population of 11 million. Within this territory, revolutionaries arose from the Jewish misery of Eastern and Central Europe. Raised in the fear of God and taught to respect religious tradition, they entered the great current of revolutionary utopian thinking. Socialists, communists, Bundists, Zionists, Trotskyists, manual workers and intellectuals, they embodied the multifarious activity and radicalism of a Jewish working class that glinted in the side and the folds of the red flag. Today, the world from which they came has disappeared, dismantled and destroyed with the Nazi genocide. Revolutionary Yiddish land recovers the struggles and lives of those lost militants. So I love I love reading about radical histories. But I also I've read a lot of Holocaust memoirs, and a few years back it really struck me that I only really read Holocaust memoirs. I don't really read much else about Jewish people, Jewish lives, and the trouble with just reading Trouble with just reading Holocaust memoirs is it becomes that you're just reading kind of about victims. Yes, there are some that like they've gotten out and they're very they've really kind of been agents of their own survival and freedom, but a lot of them are just them just barely hanging on, and just watching people around them die, watching people around them not realize how close they are to death too. And so you kind of just you get into this rhythm of you're just reading victim narratives, which is way more than what the experience was. I mean, there was a lot of partisan fighters out in the woods. In fact, my wife's grandmother and grandfather, that's where they met. They both escaped to the woods and became partisan fighters out in Poland. And she was the most remarkable one. And it got me to thinking that I really need to know more about more about that, more about the radical tradition in Eastern Europe, that basically this whole towns, cities that don't exist anymore because of the Holocaust. So when I saw that, I was like, great, like let's rediscover, let's learn about a lot of these people that are just now completely been erased from history. Yeah, and I've definitely picked up some more books of post-war stuff, of Jewish lives post-war stuff as well, and kind of people kind of just lives about people fitting into different countries, and just the history of Jewish people in Canada and America and stuff. So yeah, definitely getting into that more. And the last one is again probably a kind of slightly forgotten bit about British history when it comes to fascism in Britain. Most people are focused on the Oswald Mosley marches of the 1930s, right around kind of the rise of Franco, the rise of Hitler and Franco. There was a massive there was a lot of fascist activity in the UK, especially as a lot of the middle class politicians and aristocracy were fascist sympathizers. But this is probably a slightly forgotten bit about post-war fascism. And I think this is 1947 was the height of it. But yeah, so this is a book about the 43 group, which so this is We Fight Fascist, the 43 group and their forgotten battle for post-war Britain, by Daniel Sonnabend. So this is they formed. So basically, it's I think they're called I don't know why they're called the 43 group. But basically, it's ex-Jewish servicemen who were horrified that Oswald Mosley was still active in fascism and was still trying to force his horrible fascist ideology onto British people. And just after people had fought the Nazis. And I think there's still a fair bit of anti-Semitism in Britain at the time. I mean, there was a fair bit of anti-Semitism in Britain I grew up in, so I imagine there was still something post-war. So they formed the 43 group to fight the fascists. So I'm very interested to learn, because a lot of the fascist history texts that Britain focuses pre-World War II and doesn't really go into World War II, post-World War II, until maybe like the rise of the neo-Nazis in the 70s and 80s. yeah, very interesting. I think that's all of the books, but this is about a 35-minute video, so I'm gonna do the vinyl in a separate video, just because I probably have a lot to say about those. And I was hoping to do the books pretty quickly, but I guess I have a lot to say about those too. So hope you're all well, and see you soon. And I got a few tasks to do, and reading wrap-ups and things, so hopefully I'll try to make a few more videos over this long weekend that we have up in here in Canada. So yeah, hope you're all well.